Hey class, welcome back to EDUC 3233. We are continuing our series of lectures over the course content for this first week, and our third lecture is over Vygotsky, Lev Vygotsky, and his theory of cognitive development. Usually you'll see Piaget and Vygotsky kind of go hand in hand. They're sort of the antithesis of one another as far as theories go, but when you talk about one, it's kind of important to talk about the other. So here's Lev Vygotsky, an individual maybe who didn't get as much credit at the time as maybe was due because he was a practicing, I don't even know if we would call him a psychologist at the time. He was a very much interested in childhood and development, but he practiced in the Soviet Union and died kind of early on in life. I want to say from like tuberculosis. But anyways, his theories are still really profound even to this day, even if it maybe took a little longer to get over to us, to the US and the Western side of the world. But anyways, the big part of his theory is that really big emphasis on how on culture and socialization, that learning that yes, children are naturally curious, sort of adding on or continuing to agreeing with Piaget, but also that it's through socialization, especially when we are interacting with others, especially when maybe people know more than us, like a teacher or an expert or a coach. That's really what kind of promotes learning, and that's sort of the big difference between Vygotsky and Piaget is that big emphasis on socialization. Piaget, not to say that play and socialization weren't important to Piaget, but they weren't sort of the crux of development, and that's really what centers on Vygotsky theory. And one of the big contributions when we think about development is how to spur cognitive development, to motivate and to get people to think deeply and engage in more cognitive, higher cognitive tasks. They need to be challenged and toward sort of being challenged to do things that maybe are kind of not necessarily outside your comfort zone, but maybe you're good at this. Well, let's try something a little bit harder, and kind of getting people to kind of push themselves. And this is what's called the zone of proximal development. So you have something that maybe a child can currently understand, they can do something unassisted, then there's a goal in mind that maybe they need help with. And as the goal, as the expert or the teacher or the coach or whoever it is in this case, they're trying to bridge that gap between what they can do by themselves and what they need help with. So think about like really young kids when they're learning how to tie their shoes. Maybe at first, their current understanding is, hey, I can just put my shoes on my foot, but I can't really do much else with it. I need my mom or my dad or, some of my caregiver, whoever, to show me how to actually tie the shoestrings. But over time, maybe over with enough practice and showing the child how it's done, they eventually can kind of clear that gap, that zone of proximal development. And eventually you can kind of fade, showing them how to tie their shoes and they're doing it on their own. And this is really called scaffolding. We're trying to show, you're allowing them kind of like a safety net. You're allowing them to learn new things with you being there to kind of help them and guide them through. And over time, you kind of pull away that assistance. Maybe at first the parent is doing all the tying of the shoes for their kid, but maybe after enough times, maybe they have the kid do it for themselves, and they take away their assistance once they feel comfortable enough doing it on their own. So those are kind of some of the bigger, big picture ideas for Vygotsky, one of the major theorists of development. Not the only one, but Piaget and Vygotsky are really important and tend to go hand in hand. So that's going to be it for this week. I'll see you all for our next series of lectures. Take care. Bye.